welcome, Premier Fantasies. It's that time of the week where we look ahead at what we hope will happen and look back at last week's disaster. Except for Hlo, who is supposed to be my partner, but her individual team is 4th and our joint team is 28th. Actually, 24th.
I don't know what it is at the moment, but the truth of the matter is that sometimes you win, sometimes you lose. It's the luck of the draw.
No, that's not true. I lose and you win. That's how it goes. Anyway, which is Manchester United fans will appreciate that. We have a Manchester United show because you recognise Gabriel and you recognise Keegan, and Dino is joining us, who is another Manchester United fan.
Yeah, welcome, Dino. So Dino is our guest on the show today. His team got joint first with Matthew Little, 92 points. 92 points. How in the world did you do that?
So, I mean, I cannot claim any tactical ingenuity here. To be quite honest, I took a bit of a sabbatical, some leave away from all technology. I came back to my team. I looked at it, had a beer, had another beer, and decided, you know what, this is just going to do for this week. And apparently not managing is the best management style I could think of. So I was super stoked at this week's results.
Wow.
Well, you get full marks for being honest, that's for sure. We should have done that because the only time we tinkered, sorry to use that phrase, Stretford, but we tinkered the 1 week and we took out Kane and Son. That was the week, you remember, where... Yeah.
24-21.
Kane scored a goal and supplied 3 goals for Son.
Yeah.
And we took them out.
That's why, like, sometimes it's better, like, in all honesty, sometimes it is better to, like, actually just not make, like, or, like, knee-jerk react to results or just,
Yeah, interesting you should say that, because in my game week 11, in my individual team, I made minimal changes and I was supposed to move Neil Hlo out because I wasn't very confident in him. He only got me 1 point, but the rest of the team did exceptionally well, and I really did minimal changes because I almost forgot the deadline. So sometimes it's, like I say, Neil, the luck of the draw.
Yeah, you need a little bit of luck. Speaking of which, let's just catch up with 2 of our regulars and find out what's going on there, because Keegan individually is doing great.
No, it's Gabriel who's
doing Gabriel's winning.
Keegan's doing great. Gabriel's doing outstandingly because he's on top of the log, and yet together, you guys are hopeless. So you're actually worse than us. So I'm going to start with Gabriel. Do you do the same thing that Hlo does? You don't share some of your information with your partner.
Okay, I can confidently say that I don't do that. So Keegan and I actually, we have discussions before the game week starts, and we say, all right, so this is what we're thinking for the team, or this is what I think we should do. And then we'll see, maybe we agree with each other, or if we have better suggestions from each other, then we'll take each other's advice. But with regards to the individual teams, we do sort of also just talk a bit of strategy beforehand. We'll say, all right, so for my personal team, I'm actually thinking of doing this because of this reason. And then Keegan will also share his ideas and say, all right, well, I'm thinking of doing this because of this reason. But we do make sure that we come to a specific conclusion when it comes to the individual teams. And it could be going better, but it's going better than when we had first started. So that's a plus.
Okay, let's hear Keegan's take on it. I don't know, we had a discussion before we came on air, because you can get yourself in a situation, which is, I think, our stars aligned in is at the moment, where you damned if you do and damned if you don't. I mean, I look at our team and it's worked its way into a very poor state. So I'm thinking, are we going to spend 8 points here, the free transfer plus 8 points to try and rectify it, or do we do what Dino did and pray?
And drink beer.
Yeah.
I think there's a good way of seeing things is, if you hold your transfers, you can see throughout the seasons, generally the players that do well are always the same players. So your Kevin De Bruyne's, your Salah's, your high-end scorers that will always do well. So to try and switch between them every week, you're just going to lose out on points. So I think Dino had a great strategy at the beginning
and obviously chose players when he did that he thought would do well, and obviously it came true to this point now. So I think even with Gabriel and ours team, I mean, I think with our personal teams and our joint team, I think we almost hedge our bets on who we think will do well. And it's almost like if our personal team doesn't do well, then our Stretford team does well. So it's almost like trying to pick the 3 players that we think will do well, but amongst us, and then, you know, spreading the love amongst all 3 teams. So I think that's the way we've done it.
That's exactly it, Keegan, and that's exactly what I did in my individual team. I kind of picked a very strong team at the beginning, and then, you know, just swap it out with differentials here and there, because you want to have that consistency throughout the game weeks. But what I want to ask you, because Dino mentioned a very interesting point about not managing. A manager who is not managing at the moment is Ole, and I'm wondering what he is going to do. What do you think he's going to do, Dino, in this Manchester derby coming up, considering that I personally think that Sergio Aguero is going to play this week?
I'm actually not sure right now. I don't want to say surprised by the lineup against Leipzig, you know. So I really don't know what his response is going to be this weekend, and I haven't put much thought into it. I'm still reeling from the defeat and the shock, and obviously all the other events around the fixtures, you know, this week. That I'm a bit scared to speculate. Actually, for some reason, I feel like, you know, United as a team will step up. We'll have a relatively good performance, but as to how we're going to set up, I really don't know. I mean, we've got agents coming out and saying players don't want to be there anymore, and so there's a lot of question marks over a lot of aspects of our team. You know, there's inconsistency, there's poor performances here and there, it's in between the sticks or in the back line where we've been struggling. I don't have answers, and I don't know where Ollie's going to find them from.
Yeah, sorry, Neil. I don't think that he's doing a good job at actually managing the game on the day, as in terms of looking at who you're playing and looking at your most consistent players. For example, in the last game week, he started without Bruno Fernandes, who has proven to be one of the strongest players at the moment, and the player that is actually in form. And when he brought him on 20 minutes later, he assisted a goal for Rashford.
Well, he brought one at half time, but the thing is, he was trying to look forward to the Leipzig result, and unfortunately, the first half performance let you down again, which then forced his hand, and he had to bring on Fernandes, and so I think he brought on Pogba as well.
Yeah.
But I want to say something, which I'm surprised Chloe is saying that he's not managing well, because as Tottenham supporters, we think he's managing great. We just think whatever he's doing, particularly in the first 20 minutes of games, Ole, keep going. I mean, this wonderful quick out of the block starts is great.
Man. Gabriel, you're just shaking your head there. You're like, I feel like there's a cloud hanging over you, my friend.
It's such a painful situation now. When he was hired, somebody actually said, one of my mates, I think it's in the same group with Keegan, where one of our mates said that he should have been fired and hired as caretaker manager again. Then he would have done a good job, you know. But So that aside, just looking at it, I look at it in many different points of view. So I myself, I coach kids, and I've coached first teams of one of the clubs that one of my mates founded. So I look at it as from a coaching perspective first. And from a coaching perspective, it's very surprising to me that it's puzzling, some of the decisions that he makes. What I've noticed is that there's no consistent team. He does not have anybody who will start 100% outside of Harry Maguire and Bruno Fernandes, perhaps. Those are the only ones, no matter what, they'll be on the team sheet if they're not injured. And then against West Ham, Bruno Fernandes is on the bench, you know? So it's very puzzling to me, some of the decisions he makes. And he said in the press conference that he's not going to go for the draw. He wants to go for the win. but he plays with 7 defensive players, including Luke Shaw, who hasn't played in a month and a half, who
Yeah, that was
should be
surprising.
eased into a match. And then during the match, he takes off a left back, keeps on one, then takes off another left back to put on another one. So just there's so many decisions that he's making, which I just can't wrap my head around. And it's very puzzling to me. And then funny enough, we'll go and beat Man City on the weekend because it's just the way Manchester United are. It's very hot and cold, and it's, as a fan, it's frustrating. As somebody who coaches, it's puzzling. It's not a good time to be a Man United fan. Luckily, we're not sitting 15th or something at the moment, because that would just make things even worse.
Your away record is outstanding. You'd probably want to be at the City of Manchester Stadium. What's it called, baby? The Etihad.
The Etihad.
Empty head.
For the longest time, I
Empty head.
couldn't say that.
Rob
So
couldn't say it for a while. She was like, when you get kids who can't say grasshopper and they say horsecropper. She was like that with the Etihad. But I was the same with the Bamiyan.
so I just don't say it.
So if you don't mind me jumping in, like Gabriel says something about something that's puzzling, there's things that are puzzling us, but that might be puzzling in terms of how inconsistent we are. But weirdly enough, 3-4 days ago, United are sitting 4 points off the top of the league with a game in hand. And we were at the top of our Champions League group. And literally one result later, we're going, should he get the sack? It's like the weirdest thing. It's like, we're so close to the top, closest that we've been in a long time. Yes, it's only after 10 games, but we haven't even had a sniff at that area of the table for a very long time, And all of a sudden, that one result just like sparks all this disarray again. It's unreal. Look, on one side, it speaks to the competitive nature of the Premier League, which is super exciting, and as a fan I'm absolutely loving it. I love that everything's just jam-packed and close, and results can go either way. That just from a footballing perspective is awesome, but it's just ridiculous that we are in a great position that we haven't found ourselves in, and one result makes a huge difference. I mean, had we won that, we would have been going like give him a statue, I don't know.
Yeah, but to start, what worries me is that, Harry Maguire said, we didn't get going for 20 minutes. I'm talking about the Leipzig game, not for the first time. Yeah. And then Ole comes out and says the same thing. So I stayed up, as I'm sure we all did, and watched Ferdinand. You had 3 Manchester United ex-players, by the way, on the panel. Scholes, Ferdinand and Hargreaves. And I saw these guys thinking to themselves, are you mad? I mean, can you imagine Sir Alex Ferguson saying, the lads were a bit slow to start for 20 minutes. Are you crazy? I mean, they're professionals that are paid huge amounts of money. I'm sorry, and I would say the same thing for Spurs if they came up with the excuse. To come out with the story week in, week out, we took 30 minutes, we weren't at the races for the first 20 minutes.
It's not acceptable.
I don't think it's acceptable. And I think, Keegan, that Ole is too nice. I think he's too nice.
Yeah, and I think as a fan, it's so difficult to watch because all of our results recently have been reactionary. I mean, often games we've gone down first and then had to react. So, or we start off slow or whatever the case is, and, we playing catch up constantly. So, I mean, even when Gabriel and I were talking during the Champions League game and we went 2-0 down and then the third goal was disallowed and we're like, do we even want to continue watching? And then it's like, we don't know what's going to happen, what United will come out in the second half, what is going to happen. Yeah. So I think in terms of consistency, it's so difficult to predict or to watch. And yes, it's exciting being so far up in the table, but now we've got a game against City and then we've got like a few easier games, if you want to call it that. And like Gabriel says, I can see us beating City and then losing to like a Fulham or to whatever the case is. So it's so frustrating. And yes, I know it's the nature of the Premier League, but as a fan, it's hard to watch.
Yeah. Speaking of predictions, let's talk about game week 12. Let's talk about strategy, what we're going to do. I want to talk about captaincy because we've got a couple of players that we could possibly captain, including Newcastle's Callum Wilson, who will be back because the team will be playing this week.
Yeah, but they've got a home game because I spoke to Bob Uren today. Because I phoned him to check from Newcastle. I wanted to check that the COVID story was all over, and they're at home I think against the side
To West Brom.
Who is it?
Yeah,
At
West
home to
Brom.
West Brom.
Oh, West Brom, yeah. Oh, by the way, last week we had Pereira and Semedo in our team.
Oh my gosh.
Between them, they got -4.
The magnets.
Dude. And you know what happened, eh? Because I went to bed early, so I woke up, I thought, let me check the Wolves results. So I quickly went on and I saw Semedo. I thought, you beauty, he scored. And then I suddenly thought, hang on, I'm on the wrong bloody side. Nightmare.
Oh, God.
Okay, so let's talk about predictions. So we've got Newcastle, captaincy Callum Wilson, especially as a differential player because he's not as expensive as other players. Who would you captain in game week 12, Dino?
So I like to bring up Callum Wilson. He's like he was a game week 1 pick of mine, and I've had him in my side, so I feel like proud of that decision. It's paying off. It's been paying dividends. But in terms of captaincy, I mean, across the midfield, I've got Fernandes, Son, Salah, De Bruyne. I've got Calvert-Lewin up front, but given fixtures, I'm putting the armband on Salah this week. It's fixture based really for me, and look, like we said, it's Premier League, can go anywhere. There's no easy fixture, but I mean, Calvert-Lewin doing more damage against Chelsea than Salah against Fulham, unlikely. So maybe not such a bold move, but generally playing strategically sound pays off over a long period of time.
So this is interesting, Gabriel, because you've probably heard our plight. And I said, I keep looking at our team, and I think it's just generally a weak team. We've got ourselves into a situation where instead of having a Salah and some big expensive players, we've got Kevin De Bruyne, because I said that we've got to bring him in 2 weeks ago, and that's worked out well for us because we've captained. But we've got problems because we've got too many Chelsea players that are all these middle pip expensive players. 10 million, Werner, not producing. We had Rodriguez, Everton, too expensive, not producing. And it's leaving us with a problem, which is why 3-4 weeks ago we took a gamble on captaining Grealish, and as well as he played, he got 2 points. Yeah. So the problem with going with a Wilson is you're going to captain him, and if, with all due respect to Wilson, he isn't exactly a Harry Kane.
Well, Gabriel, and I'm sure you'll back me up on this. Previously, you said in one of the shows that you and I did together, and I'm specifically speaking about this because I've got a friend who thinks that I'm somehow cheating the system in my individual game because I seem to choose the right captain every week. So I need to say it out there, pardon. It was all Gabriel's advice. He said to me, one of the things that he said to me was, if you choose a captain, try and find someone who's going to be a penalty scorer because that will just give you more points. And pardon, Gabriel has always been spot on in terms of finding the right captain. So what is your thought pattern in terms of game week 12 for captaincy, Gabriel, and why? What are the reasons behind who you are choosing this week?
So I actually haven't made a decision on the captaincy yet because I still want to just do a little bit more research. So the first thing that I do when I look at a captain is I see who they're playing against and how they've done against them in the past. I check out maybe the last 4 or 5 games that they played against them, if they assisted, if they scored, how the team generally did, all the statistics and all of that, just to see where they are and how they might line up come the next game. Then after that, I also look at the penalty takers. So at the moment, I only have 3 choices for captain. I've got Fernandes, I've got De Bruyne, and I've got Salah. I was thinking about Harry Kane, but I know that Crystal Palace has always been a little bit difficult to play against. So I think I'm ruling out any of the Spurs options. And I know that De Bruyne does extremely well against the big sides. I also know that Fernandes, he's guaranteed to give you some kind of returns on any given day, whether it's a big side or small side, and he's the penalty taker. And Salah as well is the same. He can be a little bit hot and cold, but because Liverpool aren't, because they're not playing against a very difficult side, Fulham are very easy to score against, for the lack of a better way to put it. So he might be a very good option, although I do think that other Liverpool assets would be a better option. against Fulham. I think somebody like Mane might be a little bit of a better option than Salah, but because I have Salah, then he's the one to go for. So it's one of those three. They're all the penalty takers in the squad as well, which is a bonus. And but I'm leaning more towards Fernandes at the moment because, like I said, Manchester United, as hot and cold as they are, they have a very good record against Man City. And well, Bruno Fernandes is the most important player in our team. He spearheads the attack. So at the moment, he is my number one choice, but still a bit of research to be done before I shoot on the captain.
And you, Keegan, in terms of looking at a Man City player, maybe De Bruyne, maybe Sergio Aguero?
I would hold off on Aguero for now. I was listening to Pep's press conference earlier, and he said Aguero, I mean, he played well, he got a goal, played about 25 minutes, and then he's taken him off. So I don't think he's going to get a full game. I think he might get a bench appearance or like a first 60 minutes type of thing, but Aguero can get anything in that time. I'm actually personally looking more towards a differential this week. So I think Vardy has Brighton this week at home, and Aubameyang has Burnley. So I think, yes, Aubameyang's been, I mean, Arsenal have been terrible, but I think this week could be a week for the differential, seeing as the heavy hitters are playing one another. So, I mean, if you're not going with Salah, which personally is, I think, the best pick this week, then I think a differential like a Vardy, Kane, Son, or Aubameyang might be a good pick.
Or even a Patrick Bamford, who...
Bamford, yeah. I mean, I think they've got West Ham.
West Ham at home.
Yeah. Correct me if I'm wrong. I think he hasn't scored in 5 games.
He scored against, he scored the last game. Who did they play against?
But before that, it was like 4 games where he hadn't scored.
Yeah,
so I think also...
Off the boil. Who are they playing? West Ham United. It's a tough game.
I think Leeds, I think that Rafinha or Rapino, I don't know how to say his name. I think he could be a nice differential option, and he's only, I think, 4.4 million.
Guys, before Hlo asked you another question, we spent a lot of time talking about Manchester United and where they are in the league. Give me your independent, take your Red Devil caps off and give me your report card on Manchester City's season. Because Pep signed another contract which should really have turned their season around. It hasn't really. They lost to Spurs and they've puffed a bit, Dino. So what's going on at Manchester City and why are they where they are in the league?
So, like I said, I was actually, when I said sabbatical, I was very serious. I was away from all tech, all devices. So I haven't been following games. And personally, I enjoy watching a game of football and, kind of seeing for myself what's happening. Even when it comes to fantasy league, as much as I do my research and stuff like that, you just get a better idea or understanding when I watch. So I'm probably not best positioned to give thoughts on what's happening Man City. But what I do know is that they've got quality all round. They've got a great side. They've got good depth. They've got a good manager, and they might be going through a rough patch, but I would not rule them out. So that's my only comment at this stage. But as to why they are where they are, I can't really say.
Well, Sterling scored a cracker of a goal in his game.
Yeah, but Sterling's been a bit of disappointment.
Yeah, he has been disappointing, but still, he's scored a really good goal. And if you look at them, I think that they might be getting back into form. And I want to say something on what you said, Dino, about watching the games. And this is specifically for my brothers because they're now also in our league, almost. And they're like right at the bottom. So
and they don't watch.
And they don't watch and they wonder why.
No, you're doomed if you don't watch.
You have to watch some of the games. Even if you just do the highlights, because it's so important to be able to see which are your players.
Correct. You actually have to watch, if you're going to be really serious about it, you have to watch every game. Even if you're not going to do it live, you need to go and have a look at your players.
Correct.
And see, because I agree with you. But the problem that I have, coming back to the situation I've got with my personal side and our team side, is that I thought I started. So you guys all said, we started off with a great team. But I thought I started off with a great team because I had Trent, Alexander and Robinson and Virgil at the back. I mean, that's turned out to be a nightmare. I mean, okay, Robinson suddenly come well, but the other two, I might as well have had £4 million Burnley defenders. I mean, so that's what I'm saying. I've got my team into a situation where it almost looks desperate stakes because I just don't have the luxury of choosing. Do I captain? Well, I think Gabriel said he's got a choice of Kane, Salah, De Bruyne and somebody else.
Look, I think
Bruno, yeah.
in terms of our individual team, we need to start looking more in depth at our differential players, because that's what's going to save us now, because we don't have the funding to be able to get the good players. So we need to look at, for example, a Regulon.
But the problem with that is, and this is my plight being 29th and Hlo's 4th, I don't have the luxury to have Keegan another 2 weeks of risking these differential players, because if I'm wrong, as I have been, I just slip further and further and further behind as Fernandes and Kevin De Bruyne and Salah score week in, week out, and I haven't got them.
Yeah. Even your goalkeepers count a lot. Like I remember like a Johnston, for example, the one week got me 10 points. That's amazing. Sam Johnston with 10 points. It's really good.
Yeah, but next week he got 0.
The week after. True. But
I think
he had a bit of consistency. So if you look at a Regulon, for example, they've got not such a tough fixture. You can look at him as a differential player. Keegan, you were saying.
No, I think Dino made a great point at the beginning of the show, just mentioning not to knee jerk. And I think that shows true with every single season. I mean, people are chopping and changing and this and that. And I mean, Gabriel and I were both doing fairly okay last season. And then after lockdown, I mean, we both shot right up the rankings. So I think it's still early days. I don't think rush anything. I think really play into the stats, into your eye test, who you think will do well. And I don't think try and chop and change every week. I mean, look with Dino's team. I mean, he literally didn't make any changes and got the best score of the week.
Yeah,
and just based on, sorry.
You just panic. You're like the whole time. And because you overthink it.
Dude, last week, I mean, she says I panicked, but last week, Aston Villa and Newcastle was cancelled. We've got Martinez, Grealish, and Target. So, I mean, you got to panic. That's 3 of your players not even available. Plus, we had that misery Foden, all due respect to the player, who Pep doesn't play. And then we had another person who's supposed to be a differential, doesn't play. Personally, I've got Gareth Bale. I don't know why, because all I see him is running up and down the touchline, warming up. Warming up. So she says I mustn't panic, but I've gone from being 11th to 29th.
You know,
so in terms of stars alive,
Keegan,
I think what I'm gonna do is just like have a look at the team with fresh eyes,
please,
but not your eyes, my eyes.
Well, I did get one thing right last week. Sorry, we're having a bit of, so we had who we were going to bring in for Southampton. She said Bednarek, and I said Walker Peters is more attacking, and Walker Peters, to be fair, got 5. I don't think Bednarek might have got 2, but we've got problems. But you're right, you've got to be patient. But how long can you be patient if you're tumbling down the table?
So on Keegan's point, when he mentioned earlier about being patient, but we also had the same problem with our mixed team. So we had Mitchell, who didn't play. We had Target, Grealish, and Davis, who are all Aston Villa players. And it's a nightmare, you know. And now we don't have any players on the bench to come on. So it's very difficult. So that's actually one of the reasons why I used my wild card in my personal team, because I also had multiple players who weren't playing, and I thought to myself, you know, there's no point in keeping them there, and the wild card will be restarted in the next 3 or so weeks. So another factor that I actually thought about was, if you look at the Premier League table at the moment, it's starting to look like a fairly good Premier League table. So you've got Tottenham first, Liverpool second, Chelsea third, Leicester fourth, you know, so it's actually the big teams. So that means that the big players are also performing. So that was one of my thought processes in the wildcard as well. It was, I need to get some very big players in. I need to get Bruno. I need to get Salah. I need to get Kane. You know, I need to get the very big hitters, and then just ride the wave until the next wildcard becomes available, until the COVID situation calms down, which luckily it has at the moment. Now Newcastle's playing, now can look to bring back Callum Wilson and whatnot. So I think patience is important, but if you can, the chips are there. Personally, I feel the chips are there for situations like this, so that you don't really miss out on that 1 week, which can get you a lot of big points. Like,
Can I just ask
luckily
you a
for me.
question? Because a lot of viewers, yeah.
Sorry, my brother, who's a panicker like you, has used all his chips.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, but so
Shame.
have I, which is why I'm asking this question. I mean, can you confirm, because some viewers are probably the same as me, wildcard, I've got a wild card left, but my, what you call it,
He
the,
doesn't even have a wild card.
and that's a problem. The free hit, right, I used. But can you confirm when that wild card comes into play? I mean, who makes that decision in the play? Is it set in
It's
stone?
always
Yeah.
two.
Yeah, it's set.
Mm.
So
So if
the
you look
first
at
wild card will expire the end of December.
yeah,
Oh, is it?
yeah.
But like Neil, you guys are in a situation where you've got a wild card in the bank that basically, I mean, it's going to expire anyway. You could set yourselves up with a team purely for the last 2 game weeks in December and then the January period, and you've got that wild card to then make
Correct.
changes after. So you're in a pretty privileged position where you can look for those double game weeks and really invest heavily in those teams' assets and then get them out again, So it can work to your favor.
That's
Yeah, I actually wrote down my strategy for my wild card. So my wild card, I'm thinking of wild carding in game week 16, then free hitting in game week 18 because there's a blank game week, then bench boosting in game week 19 for the double game weeks, and then wild
What do you
carding
mean
again
there's
in
a
game
blank
week 20.
game week? What's that?
So there's going to be a blank game week in game week 18 because game week 19 will be a double game week for some teams because of FA Cup fixtures. So some teams aren't going to play in game week 18.
Yes.
It's not yet confirmed who yet, but there are going to be teams based on FA Cup and all of that aren't going to play in game week 18.
What about the story of the free hit? You get one for the whole season.
Yeah, so the other trips, it's just one for the whole season.
Well,
so
that's
there's one
good.
bench. So one bench boost, one triple captain, and one bench boost.
Well, then we should play our wild
So
card.
if you look at January, the first
The transfer period.
the first transfer period is going to be a double game week then.
Is there? Because
think so.
I looked in January and I didn't see those other makeup fixtures. Plus there's a Newcastle
there might
Aston
be.
Villa fixture that's got to be fit in somewhere.
Aston
Yes.
Villa will have 2 double fixtures because they
Yeah.
missed the opening game week as well.
Is that Villa?
Yeah, Villa.
Yeah.
So it is a double game week.
No, that would
right?
be great. They'll only
There'll
lose
be 2 double game weeks.
5-0.
Yeah. See?
So they announced West Ham and I think Aston Villa announced one of their double game weeks sometime this week, but it hasn't reflected yet on the system. But game week 16 is your last chance to use your first wild card.
Wild card.
So if you don't
And
use
then
it,
it'll
does it fall
expire.
away?
Falls
Yeah.
away
That initial
completely.
one, yeah.
Dude, you better use it.
Yeah, I think it's guys, we've got a few minutes left. Just some closing comments with regards to game week 12 so we can help people like my brothers who are struggling. No, dude, I mean, really. Sometimes you just got to listen. Okay, so give us your top tip for game week 12, Keegan, then Dino, then Gabriel, then Nielsie. I'll hand over to you.
Don't panic. Don't kneel the situation.
I'm panicking more than ever. Watch me now. We've got to use our wild card. We've got to use our wild card.
So I think really look at the upcoming fixtures. Don't look at game week 12 as a set and forget for a wild card or whatever the case is. Really look forward because game week 12 for City and United is going to be a tough fixture, I think, in terms of it's difficult to call. But moving forward, both of them have great fixtures from 13 onwards. So I think really plan for the next 5 game weeks and don't just plan for game week 12.
Great tip. Dino.
Yeah, look, in terms of the planning points, I back the view that Keegan's just expressed now. Plan ahead if you are making transfers. Don't do it with a 1 week view. In terms of captaincy, I believe consistency is key.
Gabriel.
I agree. I think that one of the most important things that I've noticed, especially the past few weeks, be patient with your big hitters. It's not really possible for everybody to get a result every single game week, but there are guys that have been consistent, very consistent. So don't just switch them out if it's been 1 game week where they give you 2 points or something. Stay patient and they will get you the points that you trusted them to in the beginning.
Dino, I just want to congratulate you again for getting those 92 points. Well done, my friend. Well done.
For not managing.
Thank you very much.
For not managing, yes.
Thank you.
Cool as a cucumber, that's what you are.
My advice before we go.
Yeah, sure. Then you
So-
can transfer us.
Yeah, well, my advice is a very solid advice. If anybody out there has a YouTube channel and they want to host a show like this, don't do it in your home sauna, because Clock has put me in a situation like where it's now 87 degrees here. I'm about to faint. So that would be my advice. Try to do it somewhere with a window open or somewhere with a
Neil,
so that you don't age 10 years during a broadcast.
best excuse to now go crack those beers and then play with your team.
There
we go.
There we go.
Anyway, Clock, and we say this every week. It doesn't matter who comes on. Last week we had OG and we had Barney. And we said the same thing all together, that we wish Clock has another tremendous week and stays in 4th place. Because I'm also beginning to think that maybe she's got a connection in the Premier League. But anyway, guys, Manchester United fans, we have 3 of them here tonight. I hope they get a result, because for the rest of us in the league, if it's a draw, that's probably 2 points drop for both Manchester clubs. So that would be the best result. But I'm beginning to be very interested in the first 20 minutes of the game to see if they can start a bit like they want to win.
Yeah, that would be nice to see, some oomph, some gumption.
And my last tip for all United fans is please sell Pogba. Yes.
I will.
Right. Time for us to say bye-bye. We'll give you away. Thanks, everybody. Cheers.
Thanks for having us. Ciao, guys.
Cheers.
Bye.